Welcome back, Red Spotters. Another show here in the Red Spotlight Entertainment Podcast. I'm your host today, Alexis J. Soto, joined by Kyle Lira for a very happy new year. We have made it to the year 2020. Yay! I don't know, there might be war.
Yeah, that's,
okay, Kyle, how are you doing?
Good for us. It's our second decade of living. Amongst some of our friends, maybe the 550th decade of living.
Well, full decade. I mean, we're kind of from the 90s, you know, the mid 90s to late 90s.
Yeah, but
we were born, we were alive.
Midpoint, and then yeah. By the time this decade ends, we're gonna be in our mid 30s.
Let's not dwell on the negative. But I mean, there's a lot of fucking negative, is there? I mean, it's weird because the first podcast I recorded this year was for To The Table, which, by the way, you can now catch every single Friday on the To The Table, anywhere you listen to podcasts, I believe. Wooshka, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen, it'll be up every single Friday. The next episode will be with Kyle and with Peter coming up this Friday. Now, the first episode I recorded with Peter was To The Table, and we were talking about some very serious issues because of the films we were discussing, Idiocracy and Fahrenheit 11/9. Least we knew, at the very next day, there might have been the beginning of a potential third world war. So it's really eerie if you go back and listen to that whole podcast, because Peter goes on this like rant about how elections have consequences and how it does affect you. And holy shit, did we get a wake-up call. I was seeing Little Women this week, which, oh my god, I love that film so much. I love Greta Gerwig.
Why don't you marry her, huh? I'm kidding.
Her? No, not that one. I'll have a full review of it whenever Peter sees it, but spoiler alert, I loved the film. I love Greta Gerwig. I loved all of the performers, and it was such a moving film. It's not the sad kind of cry, but the happy kind of cry. So it was such a cathartic film experience. And then I walk out to the news that President Trump assassinated some political leader, and it's like, wait a minute. Didn't we live through this back in the hundreds? Oh yeah, okay. So here we are again, guys. We're going into war, and that's how we start off 2020. But other than that, it's been kind of okay. How's your year been, Kyle?
Can't complain. I have coffee with me right now, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need a lot of substances to get through. I told Peter that after that day that I just talked about, my drinking has gone up 300%.
That's not a good thing, mate. You gotta get that leveled.
Yeah, but I don't drink. That's what I meant. Like I don't drink heavily, but like when I mean that it's gone up 300%, it means like, oh, I had a beer or two.
Okay.
That's not really anything. That's what I was referring to about right. My drinking has gone up, but still.
Take care of yourself, man.
Take care of, well, you're gonna need it. 2020, here we come. This might be one of the most pivotal years in human history.
Off to Neverland.
And this is going to be our 208th show to begin off 2020. We have news of the Golden Globes. We're going to go over the winners, the losers, and some hot takes, and of course the Ricky Gervais monologue, as well as Collider and their big announcement. Collider was one of the biggest spaces for film analysis and commentary.
Collider is colliding. More at night.
For one of the great inspirations of this show, obviously, or at least to me, and being involved in these kind of conversations. So that is going to be the crux of this show. And our thoughts on it, obviously. But before we get into any of that, we want to talk about some news. We haven't really delved into movie news in a big way since, I want to say, late September. So, I hope that's been answered to some of you guys who have been criticizing the show for being too news heavy. Hey, we went 3 whole months. Here we are with Knives Out 2. They could have gone 4. Knives Out 2 has seemingly been confirmed. Rian Johnson did say he is working on writing the film. I've read some posts that have said that he can actually get the movie out by 2021. And so the response to this film has been nothing but exceptional praise. To me, Knives Out is the film that I think more so than any other movie has kind of bridged the gap between the tastes of critics and general audience members. People loved and went crazy for this movie. It went, I think if I'm not mistaken, it not only did it cross $100 million at the domestic box office, I think it crossed 150 worldwide. It made more money than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is a Quentin Tarantino film, and Tarantino has his audience for sure. So this is, I feel, an extraordinary accomplishment that Knives Out has been this successful. And he did say, I believe in the post, or at least the posts did say that it would be centered around new characters. But of course, with the shining star returning, Daniel Craig, who just got off a nomination for Best Actor in a Comedy or Musical at the Golden Globes. So this is now my number one most anticipated film of probably like the next 2 years combined. Because I got to be honest, at some point we may do, you and I, an anticipated films of the year list. I can't think of a movie that I'm actually excited for anymore.
I can. It's another Daniel Craig film.
That's that's right. But I mean, to me, this year in movies is gonna be, we'll see how it is. But there's nothing like a Star Wars or a Marvel or anything else that or like a Scorsese that I'm highly anticipating or am as excited about. I know you have James Bond. I know Peter has Dune. I guess the closest thing for me is West Side Story, but I can't think of it. So until then, Rian Johnson's Knives Out 2 is my most anticipated film, and that's not going to come out until next year if it gets made. So there's that.
I'm looking forward to Godzilla versus Kong. No Time to Die. I'm looking forward to those two. But
yeah,
anyway.
And I'll watch them when they come out, but it's like I would be lying to you and everybody else if I said I was actually excited about it. I mean, I'll watch them. I'm sure they'll be good, but it's like I feel no such excitement for any movies this year. So that's just me personally. So Kyle, what do you think about this news of Knives Out, a sequel moving forward? Can you believe it?
Okay, here's the thing. I knew that it was going to happen because if you follow Rian Johnson on Twitter, he's been like bouncing back and forth ideas about like movies and all that stuff. It's been really interesting of where he is in terms of that movie. And I think where that movie is, really, I think it's fascinating. It's kind of like the little engine that could, really, or the little movie that could. And it keeps on chugging, and honestly, like all the critics are all that stuff, and right now it holds high regards, throughout all the critics and all that stuff. And I think that this is like Rian Johnson's like hurrah, I guess, especially of a not so nice 2018 for him. So I think that with that being said, I think that this movie, I think with the sequel and also especially with Daniel Craig being like the spearhead and all that stuff, it's going to be very much like the murder mysteries that Agatha Christie came up with, back in the day. So I'm looking forward to those. I'm looking forward to it. I was really much impressed with Knives Out. It's in my top 5 favorite movies of the year. So I don't know. I'm really excited. I want to see who they have as cast. Peter Martinez suggested Kelly Marie Tran. Fuck it. Let's add her. There's a bunch of others, namesake stars that you could add. But I think that overall, I think it's going to be wonderful. And you look like you just saw a ghost.
No, I just want to correct myself. I was looking at the actual tally for the box office for Knives Out. And
isn't it 200?
It's actually... It's way over what I had said. I said originally that it was at least over 150. It's actually at 238 plus million worldwide right now, which is
I thought so.
Exceptional for a film like this. Holy crap. And I know that when Rian Johnson made this news I think it was yesterday. I believe it was yesterday. When it was first circulating, we were already like, all right, this is going to be such a fun movie to cast. I feel like if anything, we can revive, we can dust off the old Remake Remedies show and just say, have a whole episode where we just like formulate a dream cast list for a Knives Out 2.
It's a Rian Johnson whodunit. Duh.
The second part. So
that'll be really fun. But yeah, Knives Out, I think I love it. Knives Out 2. Let's bring out the knives again and let's do that shit. I'm for it.
And honestly, I couldn't be it couldn't have happened to a better person too, because I feel like this is the ultimate validation of the genius that is Rian Johnson. You know, after he was kind of like torched down by a lot of these Star Wars fans after The Last Jedi, him coming out and doing a film that he wrote and made and then being this successful is the best news possible. And of course, the fact that in the week of The Rise of Skywalker, when it was released, the fact that "Thank You Rian Johnson" was trending on Twitter. Wow, Twitter is so shady. There's no such "Thank You J.J. Abrams," is there? Like, they saw Rise of Skywalker, and they're like,
maybe The Last Jedi wasn't so bad after all.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is they went. Anything else to say about this? Is there? I think you and I can both say that we hope that Kelly Marie Tran is in this movie.
Yeah,
because she really needs a pick me up after what they did to her in in episode 9. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, Kelly Marie Tran. You go girl. You could do anything. Honestly, I'd cast her in everything if I were in a Rian Johnson position or anything like that. Let's put a timestamp on how quick this movie could be made. They started production.
They said it could be made by the end of this year.
Yeah, because so they started shooting in February of last year, and they got it done by September. Everything from editing and all that stuff.
Right.
And meanwhile, Daniel Craig was going back and forth from England to America to film both No Time to Die and Knives Out. So I think that they'll be able to pull that off perfectly now that they'll have time with Daniel Craig without him having anything other, no other obligations. So I think that they'll be able to pull it out even quicker, I think. And, unless he hasn't started writing or anything like that, or have any idea what to do with the sequel. But it's Rian Johnson; he'll figure it out. And I think that'll be a perfect every year. There'll be a Rian Johnson epic or a whodunit. So I think that'll be really epic.
I agree with you 100%. Shall we then move on to the Golden Globes?
Yeah, show me them globes.
So the 77th annual Golden Globe Awards took place last night at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. It is essentially prom for Hollywood. To me, one of the things that I've noticed about this award show, more than any other award show, is this is perhaps the one that is the most fun. Because if you notice, at this award show, not only do they feed the guests, but they also booze them up. And boy, do these people... There's something so fun about watching these celebrities and stars get drunk out of their mind. And then, for me, this show is the one show that consistently and continuously, whether or not they have a good host, always creates just genuinely funny moments because of how drunk these people get. So to me, this is my favorite show to watch because of the entertainment value. I don't recall a single Oscars that has come anywhere near close to the entertainment value of the Golden Globes. So
you forget when James Franco and Anne Hathaway hosted that one year.
I never saw that. and I'm thanking God I never did. So there's that. I heard that was a train wreck. So as far as a show, fuck yeah, this is like a much better experience than the Oscars and any other award show, quite frankly. Now, as far as the process is concerned, and if you recall, as our coverage from last year would indicate the award season, part of the things that we do as part of our coverage is kind of take a deep dive behind the scenes and who the people really are who vote for these award shows. So in this award show, it is the HFPA, the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. It is an international show that's televised all over the world. And it is a group of 80-some people who vote for these nominations and awards. And the running gag is, because it's true, the host says it every year, the people who are in this business say it every year, these awards are the embodiment, although quite frankly I feel the Oscars are worse. The Globes people pride themselves, and they're not even hiding it anymore. They're kind of proud of it. They nominate who they want based on who they want to invite to their party. Like that one year where The Tourist was nominated so they can get Johnny Depp and Angelina Jolie to come to their party, of which of course Ricky Gervais, who was hosting that year, made fun of. So it's not a secret. It's flat out in the open that these award shows and these awards, and as I've said in many years throughout, it has very little to do with the actual merit of quality of the art that is in competition, and has a lot more to do with how much money the studios put into a full-on campaign, which, by the way, is a big reason some of these winners won. Elton John, Taron Egerton, Missing Link, a lot of these particular nominees were very much campaigning, and they were kissing babies, they were shaking hands, they were going to the parties. And to be clear with people, that's what this is about. So it's not about the actual qualifications or merit of art, right? So I just want to make sure that that's put out there first and foremost, that way people understand that this is a fun show to watch. And, you know, as awards go, I think you and I can certainly say that there are people that we love the fact that they won. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's what it is, as Joe Pesci would say from The Irishman. So that way people have some understanding. And I encourage you guys, if you want to know more information about how the process works, Peter and I did a show last year leading up to the Oscars. It's called The Fault in Our Stars. And it's called that way because this is something that Peter gets angry at a lot. What
doesn't get him angry?
Well, this especially because, I mean, in this regard, we were discussing the Academy Awards, right? And these are supposed to be a group of people, a body that is supposed to celebrate art in that way. But really, it comes down to political games, nonsense, and bullshit. And we called that episode The Fault in Our Stars because it exposes a lot of those things that people, quite frankly, do not know about. So getting all of that out of the way with... And before we get into the actual award show, because I know that you, Kyle, saw the Gervais monologue by, Ricky Gervais, who was brought back to host.
Yeah, full disclosure, I didn't see the Golden Globes because the service in which I use to watch network television and all that stuff, so apparently didn't have NBC anymore. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess no Globes then. But I did catch clips of it on YouTube,
which include the entirety of Ricky Gervais's monologue.
Yeah, and then I saw that monologue, and it might as well have been called Comedy Central Roasts, and then put the word Hollywood.
Was that a surprise to you?
No, it wasn't a surprise. No.
Like, Gervais's style, right?
Yeah, I know Gervais's style, yeah.
That's what he does. And which is why I think he's the perfect host. To me, there has been no better host of an award show, bar none, in the last 10 or so years, because what he brings to the table is he is
which is back every Friday.
what he brings to the table is a sense of humor and comedy that I think hits hard, and in a lot of ways, because a lot of the humor that he throws out there are a bunch of what I would call truth bombs. Now, I understand that in this post-Trump neoliberal fantasy world that we live in, we're not allowed to, I don't know, criticize ourselves or our friends, and we can't, I don't know, rock the boat too much. And for those who may think that I come from a conservative point of view or background, go to hell, because that's not who I am. And those closest to me would tell you that's the farthest thing that I am, is some kind of conservative nut who actually thinks that Ricky Gervais was going on this right-wing rant. He wasn't.
Let me put it this way. Alexis is like a political vegan. Let me tell you why. Vegans will let you know who they are and what they're for and all that stuff. And Alexis, he will straight up tell you who he is, who he's for, what he's for, and his thoughts.
Yeah, so before you go calling people right-wingers, like, take a second to realize, their actual backgrounds. Ricky Gervais and this monologue that we just that we saw in particular works in so many ways, but I think most particularly because it goes after the actual people who are there. And I understand that people are there to watch, celebrities have fun and everything, but you have to admit that the only person that the Globes really have when they do have him is Gervais, because every single time that he hosts, people are talking about the things that he says and that this was funny or that this was funny, right? I forgot the last years. I mean, Tina and Amy were exceptional too in their own way. But aside from them, who else do you remember hosting this that made an actual, I don't know, joke? Do you remember Jimmy Fallon? Seth Meyers? Yeah, they hosted. Andy Samberg hosted last year. And it was a shit monologue because none of those jokes landed. And I'm just like, to me, I'm at the point where it's like, people, it's called a fucking monologue at an awards show, right? I don't know. Do you want to be entertained or do you want to be fucking bored? And I'm sorry, the last 3 years with those hosts, the writers they have for they're the most corny, cheesy jokes that don't land at all. And those people were celebrated. Oh yeah, you did a good job. You didn't, trip over the thing, and you didn't rock the boat too much. And then all of a sudden, we get back Ricky Gervais, and people are like, well, that wasn't funny. That was too mean. Or like, how dare he say we can't be political? And it's like, these are fucking jokes. And part of the humor it is for me is to see these overprivileged people who in many ways are hypocrites being told to their face and watching the uncomfortable feeling in their face that, yeah, you know what? You guys, you're kind of full of shit. And if you think about the things that he said in the monologue and elsewhere, he was calling out Tim Cook, who was there in that audience. Oh yeah, by the way, your company, they run a sweatshop. So go fuck yourself for thinking that you're a woke celebrity or a liberal, whatever. Because when you can't be this, and then when you also run a fucking sweatshop in China. Oh, when he says that, yeah, Harvey Weinstein was bad, but you guys were there and you knew what was going on and you said nothing for so many years, right? Yeah. Or Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, he was your friend, right? I'm sorry, I know he was your friend. So it's like a lot of these things, or Felicity Huffman and that whole college scandal that happened. And they all were like, oh my God, how dare he expose us for what we are? That's why people are pushing back against that monologue. If this isn't your brand of humor, then I guess whatever. But to me, the best kind of humor is the humor that really parallels the truth. And that's why I've always loved Gervais, because he, not only does he punch for the gut, but this year it seemed like he came with a flamethrower. He was just torching everything down. And I think this is kind of like the folly of the neoliberals. And though the people in the audience are neoliberals because they're quote unquote woke liberals who have money, right? And they love corporations and they can't not have that money, right? They wouldn't want to pay more taxes, obviously. This is what makes it so great, is that he doesn't give it. He doesn't care. And I think neoliberals do not like talking about themselves because deep down they know they're full of shit in that regard. And this is why I love Gervais, is that he brings a sense of anger and he makes fun of them. You know, it's like we live in an opulent society. We have a very lopsided way. We have a very classist society. And
so what you're telling me is that we live in a society.
Well, Joaquin Phoenix, and no one's talking about this, when he won later in that show, and he went on stage, his speech literally was consumed with, you know what, guys, like, this is all bullshit. Like, we know that there's no competition between me and Leo and anybody else. And, like, I heard all these people come on stage tonight and they say, like, oh, yeah, pray for Australia, or, like, no war with Iran and everything. And it's like, that's not enough. Joaquin Phoenix himself in his acceptance speech was saying, guys, stop the bullshit. Let's stop kidding ourselves. He literally said,
"Did you see the after thing with Joaquin Phoenix?" And he told
I shared it.
He told
I
the
shared
press.
it. Yeah, the press conference where he was going after the journalists for asking the same fucking questions. And you know what? Good. I feel journalists in this country aren't challenged or pushed enough. So thank God for Joaquin Phoenix. But he said in a speech that, you know what? Maybe we, as the elite, shouldn't be using our private jets to fly from LA to Palm Springs. So I'm sorry, but there were some truth bombs that were up on there, and I know Gervais' style rubs people the wrong way. I don't care. The thing is, a lot of what he said was comedic gold, and it was fucking memorable, right? As opposed to anything else that we've seen. So he, in so many ways, is why I kind of love watching this show, and I just wish they just brought him back every single year. Because they realize that when they don't have him on, no one talks about it and no one cares about it. So that's what I have to say about Gervais and that whole situation, is the fact that the people who are most upset with Gervais, the LA Times running an article that was saying that, that he missed the moment. He shouldn't have been mean because we were in a very somber thing about all these serious things happening. And again, it's like, you know, Ricky Gervais is not a fucking politician. He was there as a comedian, and these were fucking jokes. And it's like, he wasn't like being serious about this whole like, political speeches. Although, to be quite frank with you, I am very political. And I'm tired of hearing political speeches about Trump and everything at the fucking award shows. I think you are as well, which is why they've become kind of unbearable in this Trump era, because everybody has to come up there and say, well, Trump is bad. And I just love the fact that Gervais and Phoenix are up there like, you know what? Yeah, but let's stop kidding ourselves. We're not in any position to lecture anybody else. We have our own pieces of shit in our own community. Like Harvey Weinstein or Jeffrey Epstein, so many other fucking people. Like, oh yeah, we were all there. We didn't say shit. Like, yeah, it's so rewarding seeing him go after them for the hypocrites that they are. So, sorry, not sorry. I was so happy that he brought a fucking torch blower and burned the whole place down. Although I think the biggest laugh I got out of him was when he was talking about Judi Dench and Cats. So, nothing.
Which nobody went to go see.
Nobody saw. So nothing, Kyle? No response to that?
How can I follow up? How can I follow up after all that? Yeah, I came up I came up blank. I'm coming up blank here.
Okay, great. So let's get on to the actual awards that were handed out there, right? So we're going to start from top to bottom, and we're only going to acknowledge the film categories. So we'll begin off with the biggest awards. So the first one was Best Picture Drama. That is like the biggest award of the night, and the nominees were 1917, The Irishman, Joker, Marriage Story, and The Two Popes. And the award went to 1917, which was a movie that nobody was expecting to win. And it's funny, right? Because Film Twitter, which of course I was watching on during the night, they were saying two things. First, they were saying, well, at least Joker didn't win. That was the first thing they were saying. And the second thing they were saying is, well, this is good news for Parasite. And I'm like, okay, but doesn't the fact that 1917 winning here means that maybe this movie is much more of a force than we thought it would be? This is a movie that was brought to us by Sam Mendes, who also won in his category for Best Director. It's one thing to win Best Picture, but to win Best Picture and Best Director, both of those categories were upsets, because the Best Director category, John Bong-ho was supposed to win that category for directing Parasite, and the fact that he wasn't awarded that makes me question the strength of Parasite. So I wouldn't be so sure. I think Parasite is the best film nominated in this bunch, and I think it is a deserving and worthy film to win Best Picture. I haven't seen 1917, but all I know is that 1917 is you know how Birdman was like it had the appearance of being shot without any cuts. It's kind of like how 1917 is. So it might work again, but it was a big surprise to see that one, 1917, win Best Picture, and then Sam Mendes win Best Director. Even they were surprised that they won. And clearly, if I had it my way, I wouldn't have even bothered with it, but there goes that. What did you make of these wins by 1917? Does the film even look interesting to you, Kyle? I haven't spoken to you about the movie.
I hear it's really good. Sam Mendes has directed some of my favorite Bond films. And I know his directing skills. He directed Road to Perdition, and I think Road to Perdition is a fantastic movie. So I love the director. I love Sam Mendes, and I love his style of making like real down to earth kind of things. And when I heard the concept of 1917, of making a World War I film that isn't really tackled that much, it's always World War II, World War II, World War II. When I heard about about it being World War I, the kind of chutzpah that it has to like kind of film war, but like all in like quote unquote one take with like choreography and all that stuff, like goddamn, like that must have been a nightmare to film. So like that intrigues me to see it. You know, I haven't seen it yet, so I hear great things about it. I haven't seen Parasite either. I hear that's great as well. I don't know. I haven't seen either, so I don't have an opinion for either. But I do realize the kind of hoops that it kind of has to jump through in order to make a realistic war, you know, and filming in that kind of style. I appreciate what it goes through, and so with that regard, I could see why it would win something like that.
I do have some thoughts on why it won, but just real quick to be put out there, the film has not opened wide yet. It's only going to open wide next week in theaters. I think we're going to get it here in Mos Eisley as well. So we might go out there and see it. I know I mentioned that Sam Mendes won Best Director. I want to quickly mention the other nominees. So it was Bong Joon-ho for Parasite, Todd Phillips from Joker, Martin Scorsese from The Irishman, and Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. There may be a parallel here because it is the Hollywood Foreign Press. It is an organization of international, proportions, if you will. And this award show took place the week of the President of the United States potentially starting a war of horrific proportions, I should say. So the fact that this is 1917, the year that it takes place in the movie, that is World War One. I know this is kind of a long shot to say, but maybe just knowing how they are, maybe they thought to themselves, maybe we can make a big statement if we vote for this film. And by the way, they do talk to each other about who they want to win here, where they want to win there, before they actually cast a ballot. So my guess is maybe they thought if we award this movie, we could make a very anti-war statement. Now that's being fair, because otherwise, the only other explanation is they just love the film that much. In the acting categories, you had the winner Joaquin Phoenix from Joker, Christian Bale from Ford v Ferrari, Antonio Banderas from Pain and Glory, Adam Driver, Marriage Story, and Jonathan Pryce for The Two Popes. I've seen all of these except for Antonio Banderas, which I hear is very good in Pain and Glory. I don't like Joker, so clearly I didn't want it to win. I think this means that Joaquin Phoenix is a damn near lock for Best Actor, but we will see if the speech he made rubbed people the wrong way. And yes, of course, if not aware, the speeches these actors make absolutely factors into the Academy because they're watching. Voting ends tomorrow, and the wins that happen at the Globes very much will factor in to their analysis of who they want to win or who they even want to nominate. So we will see. But these were very good performances overall. I think to me, my favorite would be Adam Driver, and I loved Pryce in this role. So, but I understand that Joker is kind of, or Joaquin anyway, is kind of the person who's holding the movie on his shoulders. So I do understand that. And he is a great actor. So at the very least, while I might not enjoy the film, I do appreciate he is getting some love in there somewhere. Any thoughts on that, Kyle?
I don't know. I would have gone with maybe Adam Driver.
That's who I would have voted for if I had a vote.
But yeah, who else was on? Christian Bale as well?
Christian Bale is for Ford v Ferrari, Antonio Banderas for Pain and Glory, and Jonathan Pryce for The Two Popes. This is drama, because we also have Best Actor, Comedy, and Musical. And the nominees for that were Eddie Murphy, Dolomite Is My Name, Leonardo DiCaprio, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Roman Griffin Davis for Jojo Rabbit, Daniel Craig for Knives Out, and of course the winner, Taron Egerton for Rocket Man, which I could not be happier.
Between the two, goddamn.
I'm happy it went to Taron, and Taron and Elton John especially were campaigning hard for this. And to me, I think this is the best possible scenario it could have happened, because Rocket Man and Taron's performance could have easily been overlooked this year, and it's a shame because we all know Bohemian Rhapsody and Rami Malek swept last year. So the fact that we have a better film in Rocket Man that would have gotten nothing would have kind of broken my heart. So pleasantly surprised and happy for them, for Taron especially. Winning this award is an upset. I could have easily seen them given to Leo or Eddie Murphy or even Daniel Craig, and while it is a stacked category, all of these performances I damn near loved. It's hard to pick out one that was the best, but as far as winning, I think it was the most important for Taron and his career that he won this right now. So I loved him winning this award. This one is more complicated because I think you've also seen these all of these performances as well, Kyle.
And I think, God, because while
I mean, let's not kid ourselves. You would have voted for Daniel Craig.
Yeah, because here's the thing.
I mean,
because if Daniel Craig would have won, then he has a shot further down the line during the award season.
Oh no, he had no shot. Don't kid yourself. He had no shot. He didn't get nominated anywhere else. The only people who had a shot of an Oscar nomination, Leo is a lock, but it would have been Taron or Eddie Murphy. Those are the only real contenders for Best Actor. And I'm not saying that because Daniel Craig isn't as great. It's just that he hasn't been nominated. he was snubbed by the Screen Actors Guild. The Actors Guild is the largest branch of the Academy, and he wasn't nominated there. So it wasn't going to happen even if he did win. If he did win, though, it would have been at least a wonderful prize for Knives Out and for him. But he was never going to get nominated. The fifth slot would have either gone to Taron or Eddie Murphy. And the fact that Taron won puts him in a pretty comfortable position to get the nomination, because the actors did nominate Taron for Best Actor. So, to catch people up on that, if you want to look at the nominations, they're online for that. But I'm just putting on my prognosticator cap on and looking at the only people in this category that had a chance of getting an Oscar nomination, maybe not even a win, was Eddie Murphy and Taron Egerton. The fact that Egerton did win here means he has a great shot of getting the nomination. Who even knows? If he wins at the Screen Actors Guild, which is highly unlikely because they love Joaquin Phoenix, but there's that. Very quickly, the actresses for drama, we had Renee Zellweger for Judy, Cynthia Erivo for Harriet, Scarlett Johansson for Marriage Story, Saoirse Ronan for Little Women, and Charlize Theron for Bombshell. And the winner ended up Renee Zellweger, who gave one of the most baffling speeches in a long time. She just seemed either stunned or drunk or a combination of the two, and really couldn't get the words out there. But I thought her performance was truly great in Judy, and she is a deserving winner. Although I personally would have loved to have seen ScarJo win, because I think she blew me away in Marriage Story.
Yeah, but word she said she's had a horrible PR year.
I think it's amazing that she's had a horrible PR year, and yet she's still being invited onto these. It hasn't seemed to have affected her. I think the bigger story is it's not really a ScarJo thing. I think it's a Netflix thing. I don't know if I told this to you, but I was watching Gold Derby, and one of I think it was from Deadline, he was saying that at the very least, in the large group that is the Academy, there is a group of 500 voters who are anti-Netflix. Now, what does that extend to? It means they will nominate Netflix films, but because of whatever principle they stand for, they will not vote for a Netflix film. And one of my observations is the Globes gave them cover because they practically shut Netflix out, except for Laura Dern. But if you notice, Marriage Story and The Irishman got no love in any of these top categories, which tells you that the anti-Netflix crowd is really rabid, and there maybe more so than ever. So you might see that The Irishman and Marriage Story get a lot of nominations, but the fact that they didn't win here, and that we know that there's a large group of people who are anti-Netflix in the Academy, it's very hard to see, aside from Laura Dern, those movies get anywhere this award season, unfortunately. That Netflix label is kind of a pariah, which is a big reason why Roma got nowhere last year, it seems like, in the Best Picture race, which I feel is, of course, ridiculous. How can you vote? They see that this is the mentality of these people. If you have a certain company behind you, you're out. All right, next. So that's why ScarJo isn't going to win anything, is because of that Netflix association, not so much because of herself. And Renee, she's Renee, and she performed Judy Garland, and it was. I made this prediction like a year ago that she would win. So there we are. The Best Actress for Comedy in the Musical. The nominees for that category were, if I have them out right here in front of me, they were Awkwafina, who won for The Farewell, Ana de Armas for Knives Out, Cate Blanchett for Where'd You Go, Bernadette, Beanie Feldstein for Booksmart, and Emma Thompson for Late Night. A lot of really good performances here. I haven't seen Cate, but I've seen the others. I loved Emma in Late Night. I loved Beanie and Booksmart, and of course Awkwafina, who ended up winning. I probably would have loved to have seen Ana de Armas win rather than Awkwafina, but that's just me. I thought Ana was the heart of that movie, and I would have given Knives Out an award of some sort, but yeah. but I also do like Awkwafina in The Farewell. Have you seen The Farewell, Kyle?
No, but she made but Aquafina made history, big history, and as an Asian, I'm actually quite happy. I haven't seen it, but I like that that Asians are getting recognition.
Absolutely. Let's look at the other things that we have here. Supporting actress, as I mentioned, Laura Dern won there. I know our own Alexis Moreno was upset. Well, not so upset, but just confused. And I was with her because Laura Dern does great work in the film, but her role is not so much a supporting actress, but an extended cameo, as opposed to other, like Jennifer Lopez in Hustlers, I felt was more deserving because that was an actual supporting role. She was in the movie a lot more. And it's really sad, the whole commentary on this category is that clearly Lopez had a supporting role, but the fact that if she was going to win anywhere, it would have been here. And now it's going to be Laura Dern all the way throughout for a really, really tiny role because, it's Laura Dern, and we really like Laura Dern. Okay, great. Supporting actor was Brad Pitt, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Tom Hanks, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Anthony Hopkins for The Two Popes, Al Pacino and Joe Pesci for The Irishman. I've seen all of these performances, loved them all terrifically. This is a stacked category. You have iconic actors from Hopkins, Pacino, Pesci, Hanks, and Brad Pitt. Maybe the most stacked category for actors I've seen. And it's Brad Pitt's to win because Hollywood had a great night last night. I think it cemented itself as a front runner for Best Picture. It won for screenplay, and it also won for, I believe right here with Brad Pitt. And believe it or not, I think Brad Pitt is a lock, and this will be, if he goes all the way to the Oscars, his first Oscar. If he wins for this role. So, yeah. And I think the rest of them have Oscars, right? Like Pacino and Pesci and then Hanks and Hopkins already have their Oscars, right? So yeah, that's kind of how they factor those things in. As I mentioned, best screenplay went to Quentin Tarantino. The other nominees were Noah Baumbach for Marriage Story, Bong Joon-ho and Han Jin-won for Parasite, Anthony McCartan for The Two Popes, and Stephen Zellman for The Irishman. I have very mixed feelings, in particular because I felt that Rian Johnson should be in this category for Knives Out. And if that were the case, I very much would have loved to have seen him win because I think that movie, more than anything else, the writing shines. And it's pretty damn perfect. So I felt he should be in this category. Also, Taika Waititi and Jojo Rabbit. That movie should have been in this category as well. But Tarantino wins, and hey, it's Tarantino.
He revised history. He wrote Sharon Tate a happy ending. So that's a big feat.
Hey, that's great. That's great, but it's also, I feel like if you're gonna award screenplay, I was much more impressed, I'd say, with the screenplays of Knives Out, The Two Popes, and Jojo Rabbit. But of course, Tarantino won that one out in that regard, and it is a great screenplay. Don't get me wrong. Best original score. The nominees were, oh boy, the movies were Motherless Brooklyn, 1917. Marriage Story, Little Women, and Joker, and the winner was Joker. Yeah, I have no issue with that, although it's not my favorite, but I do think the score itself was...
I think it's an outstanding score. I think it perfectly matched the emotions and kind of like twisted, demented kind of things going on in that movie. So I think that was a good thing. Also, the bathroom dance track, the score, I think is really good too.
Best foreign language film of course, it went to Parasite. The other contenders were The Farewell and Pain and Glory. Best original song. This was fun. This, to me, it didn't really matter who won except for that Beyonce lost, and I'm happy that she did. The nominees were Beautiful Ghosts, Taylor Swift and Andrew Lloyd Webber for Cats, Into the Unknown, Christian Anderson Lopez, Robert Lopez. No, it shouldn't have. Into the Unknown. Spirit, Beyonce, Tim.
No.
Well, actually,
no.
well,
I'm talking about Beautiful Ghosts.
Okay. Spirit, Beyonce, Timothy McKenzie, and Ila Shalamanze, The Lion King, and then Stand Up from the Harriet movie. To me, the best song in a movie is not in this category, and that's Show Yourself from Frozen 2. So there's that. And then if it comes down to the people, I'm so happy this went down to, this was given to Elton John and Bernie Taupin, because I know you didn't watch the actual show, but they were saying when they were on the stage that Elton was very moved by this award because it is the first time
they both won together.
Yeah. And that's kind of a shocker, right? Because they're kind of the dynamic duo for all of these wonderful, I mean, if you saw Rocket Man, you know, like, whoa, that's something. So, and I genuinely do enjoy the song, so there's that. And then the last category in this is Best Animated Feature. And the nominees for Best Animated Feature were Toy Story 4, The Lion King, How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, Frozen 2, and Missing Link. And the award went to The Missing Link. From what I understand, Missing Link had, if anything, an excess amount of advertisements on the Hollywood Reporter, and people are speculating that's what happened there. Peter told me, and we all know that Peter is a huge fan of Leica Animation, which is what produced The Missing Link. He did not care for this movie. So if he didn't care for this movie, I can only suspect that this film wasn't all that great. And I definitely do think that Hidden World, Frozen 2, and Toy Story 4 were a whole lot better from what Missing Link ended up sounding like anyway. Although there is a glaring omission in this category, which I would have been far happier if that had won, and that's Klaus. But again, what's wrong with Klaus? Oh yes, it's a Netflix film. So, and that wouldn't have won either, would it? Of course not. So, there's that. Those were the winners. We have a tally, actually, of who won the most. So, that's nominations. Hollywood won the most awards last night with 3. And 1917, Joker, and Rocket Man each won 2 awards apiece. What this means with the Oscars, I can't tell you, because I don't know. People are convinced that Parasite is emerging as a frontrunner, but it didn't win, so I don't know about that. I think 1917 is getting a lot more looks. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, to me, if I were to pick one movie that has the most momentum, it's that movie. And we probably should have seen it coming, because if there's anything Hollywood loves to award, is movies about themselves. And that movie is a celebration of old style Hollywood, if there ever was one. So yeah, that's kind of where I think things are going. I'm hoping for more surprises. I'm hoping for more twists and turns, but we may end up arriving on Oscar night and a lot of these same movies win for a lot of these same categories. Yeah. Overall, though, I do think that this year's crop of films far exceed the ones from the previous year. So there is that.
What was Ellen and Tom Hanks honored for?
Ellen DeGeneres was given the Carol Burnett Award, which is the TV award for excellence in broadcast and everything. So, because she's had a very long career in broadcast, so she was given that honor. And Tom Hanks was given the Cecil B. DeMille Award, which has gone to many people like Denzel Washington, Meryl Streep for acting on the big screen. And Hanks, very much on brand, using his speech to talk about the importance of being on time and being professional in this business and giving it all you got and everything. He was very emotional, getting choked up about his family and how he considers his family his biggest accomplishment in his life. So it was very touching, moving. Ellen, kind of the opposite, where she was obviously thankful, but she was kind of cracking jokes left and right. You should see it if you have the time. She was hysterical, probably the funniest I've seen Ellen in a long time on this show. But yeah, I honestly, I think all in all, these winners that we just mentioned were surprises. I should reiterate, people were expecting other people. And Peter and I were expecting Joker to win for Best Picture. That didn't win. People were thinking Eddie Murphy could win here, or maybe even Jennifer Lopez. And even on the TV side, there were a whole bunch of surprises. I know that The Crown won big for Olivia Colman. And I know Phoebe Waller-Bridge won for Fleabag, who is the upcoming writer, right, of Bond 25, No Time to Die.
Yeah. Okay. At the end of every year, Obama, former President Obama, he posts like his favorite TV shows, favorite films, and favorite books that he's consumed over the year. And one of his favorite TV shows is Fleabag. Now, there's a particular scene in Fleabag where Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character is masturbating to President Obama, and not just a sexy image of Obama, but just him giving a speech about equality. Take that as you will.
Have you seen the show then?
I've seen bulks of it. I haven't seen it in its entirety. I've caught a couple of episodes. Phoebe's writing is incredible. And so I'm really happy about Phoebe Waller-Bridge and all that stuff. The reason why I dove into here I go again. The reason why I delved into Fleabag and like watched some of the episodes and paid attention to like the writing and all that stuff is to get a flavor of what is gonna be coming up for me in April. So I think that it's great writing. She's probably, in terms of like writing, the female Rian Johnson.
That's some big praise. That's some big praise right there. So yeah, that's the Globes. A lot of fun, a lot of drama as usual, and we'll catch you up on what happens next. Now, we're not finished with drama, are we, on this podcast, Kyle? We have, looks like a little bit more drama going on with Collider, right?
Yeah. I want to insert my 2 cents right here, and this is where I'm going to have my time to shine. Collider has been kind of a mixed bag for us for the past couple of years, particularly with one particular element of Collider, which we shall not name names. But I think that the majority of the talent that they have on there is, I mean, whether we like their opinions or not, they are very, very passionate about films, about television, about all these different things, and they are by and large fans. And you have John Roca, Mark Riley, Ken Knapsack, and all these people, and they're genuine fans of these film. And I was like, okay, I'll get behind that, because that's what we are. We're movie fans. We love all that stuff. We're lovers, not experts, and that's what they kind of are. And it was kind of like, and these discussions that they would have would be, robust with that passion. And I think that because of that, it lent itself to some pretty good listening content, pretty much. To see what was done to them is absolutely not only unprofessional, but downright despicable. And I think that, with that being said, it really shows the true colors of what is going on behind the scenes of Collider and what was going on with all that stuff. I mean, I think some people dodged a bullet, in Collider. Campia, he dodged a bullet. Harloff dodged a bullet, but I think that never mind. And I think that a lot of the for what happened is, like, in terms of like creative, seeing, especially when because Campia went on a rant, on his video, and he hardly does that. He, not hardly, he never does that. Talks about, like, what's going on with, in the inter-industry of YouTube criticism, and he never does that. But then he went all out, and he called out, especially on the Twitter side, to one guy. I don't know his name. I don't care. But I felt for him. I felt for John Campia most of all, out of all of them, because, like, he entrusted his baby, what he thought was good hands. And he thought, I'm going to see this legacy grow without me and all that stuff. And to have that completely decimated like that, I don't think that is I don't think that's right. And especially if you're a creative like that, and seeing your creative brainchild die on the spot, even without consultation or anything like that, I think that's horrible. I think that is absolutely dumbfounding as a creative, and I think that this is an example of what's going on. I think this is like a small look at what goes on at the, with the bigger picture of, like, other businesses and all that stuff. Just like not notifying your staff, and like completely like canceling them, and firing them, without further advance. And I think that this is a true despicable way at how these corporations and these things are ran and managed. And I just feel for the bulk of the team that they have. So, yeah, I don't know how you feel about it. I mean, you were with the gang since the AMC Movie Talk days, right?
Yeah, me and Peter were kind of with it from the very beginning. One of the things I will say about what you just said about corporations, I think it's also a reminder that this happens all the time. It happens every single day. People just are treated like cattle, and that there's no more room for your jobs, and you get notified literally at the last minute. And I feel that there's something just so inherently evil about that. Like, not the fact that people lose their jobs, but like they're not told, like in advance. Like, that's kind of like the shitty thing that happened to them, right? It's like it's a business decision to drop their content, and that would mean dropping a lot of people. That's fine. But what I can't get behind is the idea that you couldn't have told them weeks in advance that this is going to end, and it's best that you go find, replacement jobs, because you're not going to have a job anymore, right? So I think in general, whether it be with Collider or any kind of business, I just find that extremely disgusting, how people are treated like that, especially because some of these people were full-time and they had been there for like years. Personalities like Mark Riley, Ken Knapsack, John Roca, they were full-time people at Collider for I don't know, 3-4+ years now, and they just get laid off just like that. And you'd think that, because it always was my impression that these people were like friends behind the scenes and everything, right? Like, you'd think that at some point they would have been told, unless there is the possibility, of course, that the decision was made in between the New Year's and Christmas break, and that it was finalized the day of, and that's how they chose to go about doing it. But if we look at it from the personalities perspective, it does fucking suck for them. But even if we look at it from the business perspective, everything that could go wrong went wrong, because you announced this big changing shift in programming via tweet. You announced that all of these signature shows are going away and never coming back. You fire the personalities, and you don't give them the opportunity to sign off on their own terms. And you slap the faces of the people and the subscribers that have been on this channel for years by saying that, well, forget that, because we have a whole bunch of exciting stuff with deep fake and comic book shopping and this here and for your consideration and blah, 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 blah. And to me, the sheer stupidity in thinking that people were going to react positively to that, I think was just dumbfounded. And then over the weekend, to double down on it, you had their number 2 guy go on Twitter and basically dance on the graves of the people whose jobs they destroyed. And he says that this person, because he was getting upset that the fans were angry with their decision. And I'm like, how stupid do you have to be to not understand how fans who have, we've watched this for years, how could you not expect people to be angry that you've just at one stroke taken away years of lives that they've donated to basically watching these shows? To me, the stupidity by this rollout has been, oh my God, this is I think, to me, an example of what not to do when you have a shift in programming. This is a fucking disaster for Collider, because not only did all those things happen, but John Campea, have you seen that rant and how many views that video has gotten? Like, it's been getting around, and holy shit, did he tear them a new one. Because John Campea, who was basically the reason why Collider was what it was, because, if you watch this video, before Collider, Movie Talk and those shows were part of AMC. And Collider, owned by Complex, came to the rescue. And then 2 years later, Mark Fernandez bought Collider from Complex because they were going to shut everything down. So you can say that Mark Fernandez, gave the channel 2 more years of life and everything, but it's still, I think, pretty suckish that he just laid off all those people and not give them any kind of notice, right? But if you look at Campea, like, if anything, he's the one that kind of is like the voice of everyone right now. Like, he's the voice of everyone right now. Campea, and all the words that he said in that video, the anger and the frustration, because in that video, he basically said what the rest of us were thinking and talking about for the last 2 years, and how the programming and the care for the shows that he helped create were going downhill and were being run into the ground. And he basically revealed finally why it is that he left. And the reason was Mark Fernandez bought the company, and Fernandez wanted to institute a new era, a new agenda. And he fundamentally disagreed with Fernandez, because Fernandez wanted to move away from daily movie commentary and move toward trends and celebrity content and crap like that. And that's that's everything that Campea was against. So looking at where we sit right now, it makes perfect sense for why Campea left in the first place, because he told this and not this rant video, but in the video I think a few days prior, he spoke of a conversation he had with Christian Harloff on the day that he resigned from Collider 2 years ago. And basically he detailed in the vaguest way possible, but he basically said, I left because I knew where this is going to go. I saw the writing on the wall and I want no part of it. And look, John Campea, I have a lot of issues with in terms of his opinions on film, but as far as a businessman and as a creative content, or as a creator or content creator, he is brilliant. And the fact that he saw this coming, just I think speaks volumes about how wise he was in terms of leaving, because this past week has been not just disastrous for the Collider brand, but damn near crippling. I struggle, and correct me, well, tell me if you think otherwise, but I struggle to see how Collider survives the year. That they got rid of all of their shows. All of them.
On the other side, it gave the schmoes a new roster.
Yep.
A new roster, a new line of talent. So
Well, I think that's what's going to happen because Christian Harloff and the SCN network that he's building up is essentially he's going to get an influx of these Collider people, and I feel what's going to happen is he is going to get a lot of money from a lot more patrons. With Collider gone, there's a void to be filled, and I think that if anywhere, the people who were fired from Collider are going to find a home when Christian has enough money to hire them full time, which I think if you're a fan of Collider and you want content, that's where you should go and fund it and get them back. So yeah, I think that's where the schmoes.
Not to mention, he worked his ass off.
Yeah, of course, referring to the infamous rant on Collider Live.
And also, this is going to be very much like a Conan O'Brien, Jay Leno situation, because the thing is that when Leno took over the Tonight Show after Conan left, Conan could not talk about it for about a year. So I would imagine that would be somewhere where the contracts lie with all the people. So I'm pretty sure we're not going to get juicy details from any of the core Collider collaborators. Say that 3 times fast. For at least several months. Several.
I think we know the main story, though. Basically what happened. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens to the people that remained. Look, going back to what you asked previously, it is it's surreal to think that that's gone now. Peter and I especially, we were fans of Movie Talk back in 2013. That's right, 2013 when I started watching it. Holy shit. Or was it 2014? One of those. It might have been 2013 actually. And the thing is, Campea was so right about what happened. So what went wrong, right? Well, I'll tell you what I think went wrong, and that is the main people left. The reason why the show was successful before even Collider was because of the heart, and the heart was John Campea, Christian Harloff, Mark Ellis, John Schnepp, Dennis Tseng, Amy Rose Eisenbach. Those people were the heart of that show. And when they moved over to Collider, they were even more successful in, I think the first 2 years. But slowly but surely, all of the original stars kept leaving and leaving. It's kind of like American Idol. When Simon Cowell left, then everybody else left eventually. It's like the show never was what it once was because the main people inevitably chose to leave. And I think that's kind of what happened with this, is that while they did get plenty of new personalities, the problem was, especially these last 2 years, there was a musical chairs, I think, style to who would come in and who would leave, and this here and that there. I know that last year it was around the whole James Gunn situation where they tried changing it from a morning show to an evening show, And then earlier this year, they tried changing the format to 20-minute episodes, and then they went back to longer episodes. And I think you can slowly feel that there was no direction for the show. On top of the people who you came to see were gone, the show itself had no direction. And it showed and it suffered because of it. I will say, Campia, when he left, the show was never what it was, but I do want to throw out there a shout out to Perry Nemiroff, because I do think that she very much tried to give Movie Talk a voice again, because she has a passion that just effortlessly oozes out of her, and she can facilitate interesting conversations. I think to me, the last few weeks of Movie Talk, facilitated some of the most interesting conversations in years for that show. And I do feel bad for her, because I do think she was a worthy host of the program, and it should have continued to keep going, I feel, if not have some kind of a finality, because Movie Talk was running on the internet for since 2013, and for it to get no kind of closure is just bad. And as far as I'm concerned, it was the inspiration for what I ended up doing with BNC, for why I'm even talking about movies. I'll always have fond memories of coming back home from IVC, which were just boring days, the most boring days. But you know what a boring day at IVC feels like, right? You come home, and the one thing I looked forward to each and every day was I get to see Movie Talk, and I get to see these people just have fun interactions talking about movies. And that's a big reason why I'm even friends with Peter, because one of the things that we bonded over immediately was our love for that show. Yeah, it was our love for that show, and kind of where our relationship as friends and as, collaborators kind of sprouted from. So as much as the Marvel Cinematic Universe played a role in me getting invested into movies overall and talking about them, so did Collider AMC Movie Talk play a substantial role in not only me getting more interested in movies, but talking about them, interested in the business, the politics, the drama, the scoops, the scandals, all of it. It very much was a big part of my life, and a show who I invited into my home, into my television for 6 years. And the fact that it's gone in this way, it's interesting. I'm not sure if I've it's weird, right? Because the show that's gone right now is not the show that I had in the beginning. That show's been gone for years. I have Campia still. If I want to see Harloff, he has his thing. Unfortunately, John Schnepp passed away.
I knew that there was a red flag going on. I was like, wait a minute. What's going on in the neighborhood? When Harloff started appearing on Campia's channel. And when I saw that, I was like, wait a minute. How? Okay. The neighborhood's going to be very different after that. So, and I understand what you mean. Getting to know, these people, over the years. And I think it's really, I think I mean, I'm not as attached to these people as you are. I follow them on Twitter and all that stuff just to get their input of when a new movie comes out or something like that. But fundamentally, I know Schnepp, may he rest in peace. He was a great man, and he had passion, and that's the thing that really was the driving force of what made them good in the first place, is that their passion for film and what goes on around
But the thing, when we think of Movie Talk, you think of Schnepp, Campia, Harloff, and Ellis, and they were the show. And an important thing to comment on is When Campia left, Movie Talk was averaging over 100,000 views an episode. These last few weeks, they were averaging anywhere between 15 to 20,000 views an episode. It's a pretty dramatic fallout, or drop off, if you will, and it just tells you that when we look back, when we think back to this show, it's Campia's era that we're going to be thinking of, and not anything else. And the reality is, Campia talks about in his video that he had conversations and meetings with Mark Fernandez telling him, hey, I've noticed you guys are losing some views. I have some ideas about how you can fix it. And Fernandez completely ignored it. Unfortunately, it's one of those situations where somebody new comes in, a new owner, and he fucks it all up. And I think that's what happened. And I was talking about this with Peter about, well, how is it that Collider, went under, but Screen Junkies has been able to stick around? Well, they went through ownership changes. After the whole Andy Signor thing blew up, I think they left Defy Media.
They left Defy, and then now
right.
they're in Fandom.
But I think what they've been able to do a lot better than Collider is they have been able to introduce interesting new personalities on their shows, but at the same time, keeping the old guard there. The original people, Signor notwithstanding, have remained. Dan Murrell, Spencer Gilbert, Roth Cornett, Joe Starr. These people have been there from just about the very beginning of the series, or of their channel, basically. So the fact that they keep their talent, their recognizable talent there, but at the exact same time introducing us to new people, I think they had a very disciplined approach, a very balanced approach to handling that versus Collider, who at many times would just throw you a bunch of new people to the point where you'd ask yourself, who are these people? Right? Like, that happened so many times.
That was me about a year and a half ago. I was like, I haven't seen it for a long time. Wait. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Perry.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah. It's kind of like, remember when Patrick...
I knew it. I knew you were going to bring that up. Go ahead.
Remember when Patrick came to his rock and he saw all the people underneath his rock and he said, "Who are you people?" Yeah. That was pretty much it. And I was like, whatever. And since then, I've made myself at home at Campia's YouTube channel, and it's just like, and it's like on occasion I would listen to what's going on on Schmoes, but there's one particular element I don't like of the Schmoes. You know who it is.
Especially if the conversation veers into Star Wars, I kind of want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, especially when that element isn't particularly in particular with the conversation. Even
to him, apparently that Campia and Schnepp are no longer doing. I'm sorry, Campia and Harloff, they're not doing their Star Wars show anymore because there's, according to them, not much to talk about. So, I think Harloff is pretty much flamed out on Star Wars. It seems like. So hopefully he won't be bringing it up as much anymore.
And also, this since he's been gone, you told me of the Rise of Skywalker conversation that they had on a Jedi Council, and I was like, huh, okay, I'll get back into it. And right when I got back into it...
No, me too. Like, I just realized that when Harloff left Jedi Council, they had a new format. They had Ken and Emma and Ace, which I'm fans of all of those personalities. And of course, the minute I get back into it, they pull the plug.
Ken Apsog. I like him. He's cool.
Yeah.
Guy. Cool cat.
So it's going to be interesting, right? There's a void now, and But I think if there's any, I am.
But there's one guarantee though.
Mm.
Everyone here on Red Spotlight Entertainment is not gonna
Well, but just look at
change.
this. Like, imagine,
welcome.
for a second, right? If what would be the equivalent that we could do that would kind of go hand in hand with what Collider would do? Okay, imagine one day you get a statement from let's say Kyle's Twitter or the Instagram page, and it says, "Red Spotlight, Fantasy Fair, To the Table, Who Knows, are going away. Bond and Beyond will stay, and all of our personalities, Moreno, David, Peter, and Alexis, will now be doing new and exciting program like skits and cooking shows and blah 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 blah." It's like,
Which I want to do.
oh god, don't, no, I hope it didn't give you any ideas. No.
No. I've been wanting to do that. This isn't something new. You haven't given me any ideas. I've had those ideas from the
What,
beginning.
to get rid of your entire programming?
No. Cooking shows and skits. I've always wanted to do them. I've always wanted to do cinematic feasts where we have
Tell you
the
what,
food that is being
find a way to make that happen
and talked about.
Find a way to make that feasible and do it. But I don't think you find a way to do it. I mean, how would you do it?
I haven't
carry it out.
I know.
Show a product. That way we can sign off on it. But it's like, I have a hard time visualizing how you can make cooking shows work. Are you talking about video? Because you can't do audio.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. You're not going to be like scarfing down food like, think about Goodfellas and the steak we're eating. Obviously we can't do that. But we center it on like for example, we get boozed up and have like rum drinks, talk about Pirates of the Caribbean or something like that. Or I cook spaghetti and we talk about either Lady and the Tramp or something else, or we talk about The Walking Dead because Negan spaghetti. Do that. There's just so many different things. Ratatouille, that whole thing just writes itself. That episode, you could make multiple episodes on Ratatouille. Chef, we could do Cubanos and talk about like the impact between that. We could talk about like culture, just like give an example of like or like fudge. We could eat fudge while we're talking about Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I mean, there's just so many different possibilities we could do because food is such an integral part of cinema and the way that it is interwoven. Fucking Phantom Thread, that whole breakfast scene that they have. Shit, you could talk about Phantom Thread and have whatever they're having and talk about like, oh, Daniel Day-Lewis's career is like all that stuff and go more into depth besides that movie and just use the movie as a crux. I mean, there's so many ways like you could like expand on that. We could talk about our love for SpongeBob, have Krabby Patties. I mean, there's a shit ton of things like to do. I know how to do it. I know what I want to do it. I know the format of how we're gonna do it. Time, however, I need to get a hold of that.
Well, it's we have a whole bunch of shows that are gonna be coming at you guys, these next few weeks. So that's time is gonna be a big thing, but it's hard to imagine a worse week for a rebrand, for Collider. And it doesn't sound like it to me that's going to continue to go on much longer. So if I were at Collider still, I would be actively looking for a backup. I'm sure you would too.
The schmoes I hear are hiring.
Well, somebody has to. Um, we're gonna go ahead and bring it off to a close, but as Kyle was alluding to earlier, yes.
Do you think? Do you think? Do you think Campia will bring on some of the like Riley, Knapsack, or anybody?
Well, he initially said,
Or do you think he's Or do you think he's content with Robert Aaron and all that stuff? Wow, I didn't mean to bore you.
The John Campea show as is will not change. Now, he did, I think, on Twitter say if he could take the name Movie Talk back, throwing some shade at Collider. I don't know if legally that's possible. Campea said he's not, looking to do Movie Talk 2.0, but if he is interested in getting the name back, who knows? And if we're going to go ahead and end it there, I wanted to remind people that in 2020, in particular, the first few weeks and months of 2020, we have a slew of programming additions. So first and foremost, this show you're listening to right now, Red Spotlight, of course, all of our programs are available anywhere you listen to podcasts. But our show will be available every single Sunday, sometimes on Thursdays, but mostly on Sundays. And Fantasy Fair, which is Kyle's show with Alexis Moreno, will be on, if I'm not mistaken, every Friday, right? Or every Friday when there is an episode.
Every Friday,
right.
Sometimes Monday.
So keep in mind those days. Those are our main programs, as well as, is there a day you want Who Knows to be on, Mr. Lira? Does it matter what day that they're on? Okay, Who Knows, if I'm not mistaken, is available on the Red.
I don't know.
It's on the Red Spotlight feed, right? Okay, so
yeah.
Okay, we'll aim for Tuesday.
Tuesday.
We'll aim for Tuesday.
There we go.
Who knows? Because Doctor Who is back, and we'll be talking about that, as well as To the Table. Peter Martinez is doing a revamped version of To the Table every single Friday. And, of course, Kyle Lira is doing Bond and Beyond leading up to James Bond 25, No Time to Die, in April. Kyle, I'm not familiar with when the episodes drop.
Well, last week was a very unique thing because it was the new year, the new day. So give me 1 second. I have it written.
Kyle
down.
Lira has it written down, ladies and gentlemen. He's getting up his list right now.
Every Wednesday.
Yep, that's a lot of lists. So every Wednesday, Bond and Beyond. Every Friday, To the Table. Fridays and Mondays, Fantasy Fair. Sundays and Thursdays, Red Spotlight. Tuesdays, Who Knows? And you still want to add on more shows to that? Well, we've got After Darks when we have After Darks. And those drop whenever there's a new movie out, if we do one at all. So, yeah.
Meanwhile, go see Cats at your local Megaplex.
No one saw it. And it looks like no one's going to see it. Oh well.
Please, guys, go see Cats. We need more movies like Cats. Please.
Are you being serious?
I'm being completely 100%
Why do you think people
serious.
would enjoy
We need more
it?
movies like Cats.
Clearly nobody has.
Oh, it's just... they don't understand.
Then why would
art.
you want them to go see something that they hate?
So they could understand it. Educate.
Okay. That will mark the end of this first episode of 2020. Thank you, Kyle Lira, for joining me. A preview.
I thought... Wait. I thought the episode that we did with Moreno was the first episode of 2020.
a preview for our next episode with Peter Martinez. We have a review of
Boom, roasted.
the first posted episode of the year. Yes, was with Moreno, but that was recorded as the end of the year podcast. Okay, now can you please shut up? Now, as I was saying, the next episode we have is a review of Marriage Story and The Two Popes with Peter Martinez. Now, until then, fuck off. Bye. No, I'm kidding, guys. I'm kidding. Thank you all for listening so much here on Red Spotlight number 208. Kyle, thank you for joining me. And thank you all. Stay under the spotlight. We'll see you next time. Bye.